This is what I should be focusing on. Whose day can I make better today? What do we value? We value how skinny we are, how much money we make, what college we go to, but maybe we should be valuing how much better we made someone's day today.
This is the Home of Healthspan podcast, where we profile health and wellness role models, sharing their stories and the tools, practices, and routines they use to live a lively life. Leslie, welcome. We were together last week and now we're virtually together again, and so excited to be here with you.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to be here.
So before we jump in your quote juicy story, how would you define yourself?
I would define myself as a lively mother, entrepreneur, and health nut who has become my mother.
It's our nightmare and our dream all in one.
It is. It totally is. Like, I never thought it would happen, and here it's happened. So beware.
So on that, I mean, as a health nut, as you think about living your best life for your entire life, what does that mean for you? What does that look like for you?
So my best life would mean all the different parts are balanced. You know, I'm not really good at one thing. Let's say exercise. I'm a big exerciser, but have my nutrition dialed in. I have my sleep dialed in. I have my work life. I have my mom life. I'm disciplined with my exercise, and I'm still a good wife. All those good things. So I think that balance is something that is kind of hard to achieve for long periods of time. So that's my ultimate goal. I
think that's the first person to put it in that way. And I'm so happy you did, because that is the entire premise of what we're doing. To be healthy, you need to work across all these pillars. And yet people think they're being healthy, optimizing in just one or just two, not realizing the risks they're running and the deleterious effects by not addressing those others. So speaking of which, let's start with nutrition, given your business and maybe your story. Can you just say a little bit about how you decided to start Arden's Garden? Like, what was your journey?
Well, I didn't really decide. So my mother is Arden, and she was a huge health nut my entire life. Way before people were being healthy, we were being healthy. So we're talking the 1970s. My mother is blending up the grossest combinations and feeding it to my brother and I, and it was called the concoction. And it tasted horrible. Honestly, I'm in awe of my mother, but she got us to drink it, and it was really, really full of nutrition. So fast forward 30 years, my mother always wanted to buy this one juicer called a Norwalk. Very expensive for a home juicer. When she first wanted it, it was $1,500. In 1994, it was $2,200. And she said, oh my gosh, I don't want to go my whole life without this incredible juicer. She still can't afford it. $2,200 is a lot of money for a home juicer. But she does the all-American thing. She gets out her credit card and she buys the juicer, and to make herself feel better, she calls all her friends and family and says, I have this amazing juicer and I want to use it. So if you want juice, I want to make it for you. And the thing to know about my mother is her currency in life was never money. It was always wellness. And so if she was giving you juice and making you healthy, she was being fulfilled. And that's how she started. And there's a long story from that, but that's how we began. And that Norwalk that she purchased was super labor intensive. And a health food store heard about her making juice in her kitchen. And they said, hey, come to the back of our store. We'll give you the produce, you make the juice, and we'll split the sales. And my mom thinks this is incredible because she's buying the produce and giving it away. So off she goes to this health food store, but she needs a lot of labor. So she recruits my brother and I to come help because we're free. And that's how Arden's Garden was born.
I mean, margins can be very good with free labor. So I think you're a savvy businesswoman as well.
That's super incredible that you got to, be learning about this like holistic kind of wellness at such a young age. I feel like that's something that people really come into like later in life. Were there other like concoctions or like things that you kind of learn that are in your daily, nutrition, or what would be like your supplements in juice form?
So My mom, I wouldn't say when I was a little kid that I loved it. I kind of accepted it. I was the younger child. My brother rebelled a little bit more, but we didn't have any choice. But when you get away from your parent, then you go for maybe not so healthy choices. But it definitely became part of my DNA. And then as I got older and I joined Arden's Garden, so then I got my mother was into everything. Like everyone will say, oh my gosh, your mom had such great ideas. And she did. But there were some that were really crazy. And so she, from, like oil pulling to an ozone machine to a hyperbaric chamber, we had it all. But nowadays, when I say I've become my mother, like I eat things for functionality, not for taste. And so, like, one of my favorite things is a cruciferous smoothie. I drink at least 48 ounces a day of that because cruciferous vegetables are the most densely nutrient foods on the planet. And so you can put it in a smoothie with some fruit and some water and some flaxseed, and you have just a powerhouse of nutrition, and you get your day off to the right start. So in my youth, I would have never, ever had that. It doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't taste good. You have to kind of get used to it. I think it tastes great now, and I give it to people, and they're like, So it's an acquired thing, but the benefits outweigh the, challenges. So I just go for it.
And so given that, right, you're so thoughtful and deliberate, the ingredients in the food you're consuming, do you even supplement with anything? Or you say, hey, I have dialed it in so well on the food?
No, I do supplement. I do. So I'm vegan. I'm completely vegan. Vegan has, there's a wide range of what vegan is, right? So I became vegan in 2011 and I had my last child that year. And once I had him, I became sleep deprived, and Oreos are vegan. So, you can be vegan and then you can be like plant-based, highly, dense nutrition. I do supplement because I'm vegan. I take a multivitamin that has D3, B12. I also focus a lot on omega-3s for brain health. So, yes, and I also supplement with a mushroom supplement for immunity. So there are things that I add, but I do think the bulk of my nutrition comes definitely from the foods that I choose to eat.
How about on the protein side? As someone who really just eats plants, I mean, I have to go get a lot of plant protein to get it in my.
So there's a lot of protein. There's protein in almost every single food that we eat. And if you're really focused on protein, you're going to focus on like edamame or pumpkin seeds or beans or things that are very high. But even broccoli and cauliflower, every plant has protein in it. And this is a question that everyone is asked when I'm asked whenever I say I'm vegan, but I have never met anyone that was protein deficient ever. So, you look at all the big plant eaters, the elephants, the hippopotamus, they're pretty robust. So I don't feel, I've actually feel so much better once I changed my diet. But there was a lot of reasons for that.
What I'm asking, because I use a pea plant protein so I do 2 protein shakes a day on top of my meals to get high enough protein. Do you do anything like that, or you're getting enough in the plants themselves?
I don't typically supplement with protein powders. Occasionally I'll throw some hemp in, but I do focus a lot. Like I make my dressings with beans or tofu. So I am intentional about the choices I make, but I don't supplement typically with a powder, no.
It is a good example, right? You look at gorillas and how muscular they are, the elephants, and you're like, well, they're getting muscle. The flip side is they are eating all day.
That's true. You're right. But they're not getting any beans and they're not getting any pumpkin seeds. So, there's a trade-off. Or maybe they probably are getting some seeds of some sort.
So you also mentioned fitness, right? Like that it's a big part of your life. I know popping up in a handstand is a big part of your life. So what does your fitness routine look like now?
So I grew up as a gymnast, so I was super into working out, and both my parents, like before Arden's Garden, my mother had exercise studios, and my father was like a world-class soccer player, so fitness is a big part of who I am. And now for me, fitness is mental health. So I get up every morning and I move. That's the first thing I do. And it's not even hard for me. It's actually the thing that gets my day started. So I have my own little calisthenics routine that I do first thing in the morning. And then I either go to yoga or I go for a run. But I really love it. I'm also someone that likes to multitask. So, if I'm going for a run, I'm listening to a podcast and I'm taking my dog. So, you get the triple crown winner for that. So I do like to make my workouts work for me and for others. So, but I am very disciplined about that. I think it's key. And I do at least an hour a day, at least.
And of that hour, that early morning, right when you start calisthenics routine, how many minutes is that?
That routine is super short. It's about 4 or 5 minutes. I literally get out of bed, brush my teeth, and I hit the floor. I just did it right before with a guy that I work with because we were talking about having like a lull. And I'm like, let's do this because it's like a shot of espresso, So we just we do like 15 push-ups, hold a plank for a minute, do 20 plank jacks, and then do, up, down planks 20 times. And it takes about 3 to 4 minutes and it's pretty hard. But it gives you a real shot of energy.
I mean, getting that blood flowing to start the day, I do something far less intense. Takes more time, but more soft tissue mobility of just running all the joints from wrists, neck, cervical spine, all this stuff. Do you have any favorite running shoes?
I've run in Saucony I have a wide foot and I also run on my toes. So Saucony are by far my favorites. I've run in them for years. And for a brief minute, somebody turned me on to Hoka's when they got really hot. But really, I am a Saucony girl through and through. What about you?
Running on your toes is good. I do more barefoot.
Oh, you do? You're the barefoot runner. You and my brother. What are those Vibrams?
No, even more.
You're running in those?
I'll go jog. For trail running, I have slightly thicker, but I'm a zero lift, get as barefoot as I can.
Wow, I'm impressed.
I don't own the only tennis shoes I have are Vivo barefoot shoes, so there's still nothing to it.
How long have you been running in those?
I mean, granted, since I had my second knee surgery, I don't do a lot of running these days, but it would have been 2010. But that's the premise is you should be more on your toe, right? So
yes,
you run on your toes.
Well, I have always been a toe runner. Like my father, I ran a lot with my dad in my 20s. He's always been a runner, and he would be like, "You need to hit your heel first," and I would try, but it would wear me out when you don't run your natural cadence. But you see people that I look sort of what are they, a gazelle? It's it's a weird run, but yeah, I run on my toes.
I see Taylor smiling because the funny thing is we're sitting here talking we're experts. Taylor was a Division I track athlete, so yeah. I'm curious her take on everything that we're saying with such certainty.
Oh yeah, no, I wear Sauconys, and I actually am looking to switch because I feel it's making me pronate.
Okay,
I pronate in on one foot, so I feel to your point, I'm a toe runner as well, but learning to do the heel strike has probably been the death of me, but it makes you run slower. And it helps with any off balances you have. If you do learn how to do the heel strike, you will correct some knee issues. But I've tried the barefoot as well. But I feel my feet are too weak to handle that right now. It takes a lot.
Yeah, it's got to be tough as a real good runner that for 20 years has run one way to then go into barefoot, because you would have to back off so much because you said, your foot doesn't have the muscles. When I started it, I wasn't running at all. So it's hey, if I go start with half a mile and it takes me a few weeks and I get to a mile and then slowly build up to get to 10K, my foot muscles were coming along with the rest of my body. Where it's you, I've worked out with you, getting you to back off without injuring yourself would be a tough thing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel there's a lot of mobility and stuff that you can do to kind of rewire your feet, but I'm going to have to really, really change things. It's almost having foot binding. But yeah, doing your natural cadence is probably best.
It's way too late for me to change now. I'm all behind you, Taylor. Tell me how it works out.
So when you travel, is there any difference, or you try to stick to that same fitness routine?
Well, I don't do yoga when I travel. I do hot yoga, so I'm very loyal to going to my classes. I will occasionally actually hunt one down, But usually when I travel, my husband and I have climbed a few mountains lately. And so I've been rucking because I had to carry 40 pounds with me. So when I'm traveling, I do my rucking, and that's easy to do. But I do my little calisthenics, go for a run, whatever. But I do move for sure. And everyone's like, hungover, and I'm out running.
It just feels better. I don't know.
Kind of like last weekend,
Yeah. Just like last weekend. Speaking of last weekend, so last weekend we've referred to kind of seeing each other. It's this thing, Leadership Atlanta, that kind of brings the city together and leaders. I did it we were the longest class ever because we were the class of 2020, got impacted by COVID. It went a little longer. Leslie's in this year's class. But we were saying one of the greatest benefits of it is combining that social connection with purpose, right? It's really bringing different parts of the city together, and business leaders, but also people in the education sphere, people in politics, people in nonprofits, all over, from the CDC to some of the universities, everything together. And going into this class, what is it that drew you to joining Leadership Atlanta in the first place?
Well, I've known a lot of people like yourself that have done it, and they're all people that I respect, and I'm a longtime Atlantan, so I just felt like it was a time in my life where I have a purpose-driven company, and the longer that we stay in business, the more that we are putting the purpose front and center. So for us, it's that we're opening stores in underserved areas because everyone needs access to fresh food. And so as I've done more of this work, I've been put in the sphere of being around people that also do this work. And I find it very fulfilling. And so I was like, now's the time. I'm in this. I feel very strongly that I am highly influenced by who I'm around. So if I'm around people that are purpose-driven or exercising or eating healthy, I'm doing all those things. And the opposite's true as well. So I wanted to be intentional about, I get a lot of fulfillment out of doing this work, and I want to get out of just doing it for my company, but also do it for Atlanta as a whole. So it just checked off all the boxes for me.
You referenced the company and kind of the purpose behind it, but could you clearly, it's bringing healthy nutrition to anyone and everyone? Like what is it that's driving you?
So when we started, we were just cold pressed juices and smoothies, and our differentiator are two things. One is if you read the side of the bottle, you'll know every ingredient. If it says pineapple, apple, ginger, it has pineapples, apples, and ginger in it. And the other thing was affordability. So our tagline is good health for all. And so it's not easy for a lot of people that are not wealthy to make good, healthy choices because perishable foods are not available in food deserts. Because if they go bad, then they throw them away. Well, it wasn't like I had an epiphany, I want to open up. We could only afford a plant in an area of Atlanta that was underserved. And in 2002, when we bought that plant, we had no intention of opening a store where the plant was. And what happened was the community just kept knocking on our door. And we eventually put a store in that plant location in East Point, which is near the airport. And that store became our number one store. And today, it still is our number one store out of 17 stores. And so because of that, we saw that there's a real need. And so the last two stores that we opened were also in underserved areas. One is an area of Atlanta called Sandtown, very close to the East Point plant. And then the one we just opened in June is on Old National. So I know that, Andrew, where Old National is, but it is you cannot get fresh food on Old National. So it's just been really amazing because we get to offer our products and support a community at the same time. And the synergy between the community and us is just incredible.
What's so powerful to me about this is you're saying, hey, there's a real need. Now, you could go back without building a plant, anything, and say, yeah, we know there's a need, right? This is a food desert. There needs to be fresh food. But I think the more interesting and compelling part of the story is there's a real want to, right? Like there's so many people not in those environments that write off, they don't need healthy. They choose this. And when when you have the option, they choose the other. Not only that, but they're saying, no, please, we also care about our bodies and our lives.
Correct.
We would love to be able to access healthy
Right.
ingredients and healthy foods,
Right.
and you're helping make that possible for them. That's amazing.
Right. And they're voting with their feet.
And wallets.
Yeah, no, they're showing up. They're showing up. And so the number 2 store right now in 17 is Sandtown, and we're open all over Atlanta. And so it just shows you that there really is an opportunity to make fresh food available in underserved areas, and the underserved areas will show up.
I mean, just societally, it would just make sense. Like if you look at the cost of type 2 diabetes, what Medicaid and Medicare is going to do.
Correct.
Just give everybody big grocery bags of fresh plants.
Fresh food.
Every week, we know. Like,
100%.
there's hard data on it. It
Right.
just makes sense. National government, just go give people big bags of fresh plants.
Correct.
Everything will be better, right? It's going to displace other calories. Like everybody's going to get healthier. It costs on.
Yes. Yes, no, it's true. And so I started to say that we started off with juices and smoothies, but over the years, and especially from 2011 coming forward, we started offering plant-based foods because you can't live on juice and smoothies alone. And so as I ventured on my plant-based journey, I saw how hard it was. It's not convenient. White processed foods are convenient that stay good on the shelf for a year. That's not food. If the food's not going bad, there's no life force in the food. So as I saw how much it was hard for me, I was like, it's got to be hard for everyone. And in 2020, actually, I have a daughter that has struggled her whole life with weight. And I'm not talking 20 pounds. I'm talking morbid obesity. Did a lot of things, tried a lot, camps, therapists, schools. And in 2020, she came home from college because of COVID and she was struggling. And she ended up going out to a place in California called Eat to Live, which is run by Dr. Joel Furman. And I went out with her to drop her off. And I was already vegan for years. But what I learned at that place, that it wasn't just it wasn't important what I did not eat, which was like meat and dairy, but it was important what I did eat. And so then we really put the focus on nutritional density. And that just catapulted, my health, my family's health into a new dimension. My daughter lost 150 pounds.
Wow.
Because, yeah. And so, the foods that we eat matter, and the things that are available to us are addictive. And they're meant to be addictive because they'll keep people buying them. So we're trying to make other options available, and especially in those underserved areas. So if you go to Old National, we have food made to order that's all plant-based, no oil, that sort of thing.
Flipping from that scarcity mindset to one of abundance, right? Like, hey, if all I'm focused on are all these things I'm not allowed, it's a totally different psychological stance to be in than, wow, this opens up all these things I can have. Let me go pursue these things. And then even if I'm not 100% compliant or whatever on those, each bite I take is displacing something that isn't going to be nutrient dense, and my body's going to be confused. Whereas if I'm eating the things my body knows how to process, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can kind of sense like I'm getting enough fiber from this, I'm getting enough iron from this. Like I don't need to choose.
Well, it's like crowding the bad stuff out. Okay, just add in one good thing today, and maybe next week you'll add in 2, and then slowly but surely you'll start replacing the bad choices with better choices.
You mentioned your daughter, you've mentioned your husband, and this point of not over optimizing just work, just fitness, just nutrition, but this social connection work, right? Like with your family, with the community. How do you structure that or bake that in? Is it just natural, or you say, hey, I know I can slip into maybe doing a little too much fitness and a little too much work and this? Do you have a way that you make sure you're filling that social connection bucket?
I happen to be a very social person. That's just one of my natural things. I like people. So I naturally gravitate towards being with other people. And also going back many, many years, I got sober back in 1986. So there's a whole community around being sober and being involved in recovery. So I do that on a weekly basis. So I have a community that I see. I've known these people for 38 years, so that's part of my lifestyle that I do. And also being part of a workout community. If you go to the same yoga studio, you develop community there. So I think community is key. And it's something that I'm very intentional about that for sure. So I think that's a key part to health and all those good things.
You mentioned sobriety and kind of that mindset around it. Are there, other things that you do to maintain that positive mindset and any benefits you see, obviously being sober for so long?
Well, for sure. There's intentionality, there's gratitude. So, there's a saying, if you cease to be grateful, you cease to be sober. So I'm very intentional on a daily basis I wouldn't say that I meditate, but I take 3 to 5 minutes to think about my day. I do this with my kids, actually. When I used to drive them to school, now a couple of them can drive on their own, but we would say our 3 things that we were grateful for, and then 3 things that we were going to be intentional about today. And it's interesting because my daughter works with me now. And she got a review. She got a review in Google or Yelp or something. And the woman wrote she had the best experience with Delaney. And she named her. And she said, I came into the store and I was really having a bad day. And after interacting with Delaney, I just felt so much better. And I read that review and I thought, this is what I should be focusing on. Whose day can I make better today? What do we value? We value how skinny we are, how much money we make, what college we go to. But maybe we should be valuing how much better we made someone's day today. Just one person. If each one of us just tried to make one person's day better today, how much would the world be better after that? So, I think intentionality. And I've really thought about that. I actually saved the review to read. And I do read something daily. That has been one of my readings. To remind myself of what my goal is just for today. And if you come into one of our stores, we have a sign that says, what is your goal for today? And you can write down. So having that intentionality, I think, is super important.
And you have 3 each day? You have 3 things that you're going in?
I have 3 gratitude things and 3 intentionalities. Now, my intentionality might be, okay, I'm going to fold Rafa's blanket and put it away because that's going to be my nice thing. Or I'm going to clean the dishes in the break room because people left them. It doesn't have to be a big thing. One of the things I'm very intentional about is writing thank you notes to people, like by hand. I think that when somebody receives that, first of all, it's really great for me to put it out there. It takes 5 minutes.
That's a really curious thing on the gratitude practice, because I'm really big on gratitude practice. I talk about that, and it's definitely positively impacted my life. But the bigger effects from the gratitude practice are less the expression of it than the reception of it. So that writing of the thank you cards, you're giving someone something physical that they go back to. And I know they do because I send them and people are like, oh man, I just, when I'm having a bad day, I pull this out.
Totally.
And I just find this so helpful and reframe, like you do with Delaney's review. Like I just pull it out. Having something written, it just makes such a difference.
I carry 2 letters in my bag with me every day that somebody wrote to me. They're years old, but if I'm ever not having a good day or I need that little extra boost, and that person probably didn't think about it when they wrote it, but it really has meaning to me.
It's that gift that we are able to give freely, right? That positivity, because you could be a downer and impact people's day the other way. I'm going to be a jerk. I'm going to bump into somebody. I'm going to be angry. Or, you bump into somebody, they're expecting you to be angry, and you just smile and say, hey, I hope all is good. Then all of a sudden it reframes their day, right? And then they multiply, they do it to the next person. And it's crazy how contagious it is.
And the gratitude practice, so the more that I'm intentional about doing it, it's like whatever I focus on gets bigger. So if I focus on what's wrong, that gets bigger. And if I focus on what's right, that gets bigger. And so that intentionality grows, organically.
It's similar on the nutrition side, right? Like if I'm focused on the things I'm not allowed, those are the big thing that I'm thinking about all the time. If I'm thinking about, oh, these are the things I can have, this is what I'm looking for, then that's what gets big. And I guess what you focus on is race car drivers, like never look at the wall, right? Like you're go where your eyes go. Like don't look at the wall where the path you want to go on. Focus where you want to go, not what you're trying to avoid.
Listen, when I'm in yoga and they say, okay, we're going to go from eagle into warrior 3, they did it this morning. If I think to myself, oh crap, I'm going to fall. If I think to myself, I got this, I'm going to be fine. And I just repeat the mantra. I got this. I got this. I got this.
I quote to my daughter all the time, whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Totally. My mother used to say that when she would teach a cleanse class. It would be on the head of the pamphlet we gave people, that exact quote.
So we talked a lot about how you go about your days and structuring those. What about the nights, right? Because the sleep and recovery are a big thing. Your whole point of, hey, I'm going to be up conquering mountains while you're hungover in bed. How do you think about your sleep and recovery of your body and mind?
So sleep is my weakest pillar. I'm a very early riser. If I do not put any caffeine in my diet and I really turn off technology early, I do much better, but I have to go to sleep early because it doesn't matter what time I go to sleep. I'm going to wake up between 4:30 and 5 automatically. So if I'm able, 2 nights ago, I was really tired. At 9 o'clock, I was out and I woke up at 4:30 and I felt great. Last night wasn't as good, and I woke up at 4:30. So that's something that I really have to work on. There's a lot of opportunity for me there. And I think the biggest part of it is getting the technology out of the room.
Speaking of the technology out of the room, do you use any technology to track the sleep?
So I used to wear an iWatch and an Oura ring. But what I found for myself is I would wake up and I would feel great. And then I would check my Oura score and I would go I would literally go on a run. And if I forgot my watch, I would run home to go get it. And that's just silly. So for me, I got rid of all of that. For me, it's better. My body knows what I'm doing. So no, I'm not tracking any of that anymore.
I see Taylor smiling. So you're an Oura girl, right?
Yeah, I love my Oura ring, but I've done the same thing. I retired the Apple Watch. I feel like there's a certain point when it comes to tracking. If it's not helping you, you shouldn't be focusing on it. But separately, I love the sleep insights because I feel like I was not a good sleeper and it made me better at going to sleep. But it was turning my phone on red mode and I don't think I watch TV anymore because now I can go to sleep super early. So I feel like it can go both ways.
It made a big difference for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever woken up and felt depressed, you felt good and then you felt awful when you saw your score?
Not really. I think because I really am very strict with my sleep, for at least Monday through Thursday or Sunday through Thursday, I'll be asleep by 9 o'clock. 8.
Yeah.
I'll be in bed by 8, but it's easy to do
Taylor,
that.
do you have kids? We're going to talk when you have 4 kids.
But also when the kids are at a certain age, it's also, I find a little easier, my daughter's 8. So super early, she goes to bed super early. I don't watch TV anyway. So
yeah,
but it's because I'm a Whoop guy. And the flip side is it will help inform. I used to not be as good at listening to it, but inform how hard I go that day working out. Because normally I'm just 100% every day. And I just grind myself into the ground. Whereas if I've had a really poor night's sleep, I'm like, you know what? Probably the better answer for my health is not to go super hard on the fitness side, but to think a little more on the recovery. And so maybe do yoga today instead of every day.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
In Bermuda, I have a 8 sleep, and then in Atlanta, I have a chili pad from Sleep Me. It's a mattress cover that cools through the night to help you optimize your REM and deep. And it also tracks your snoring. At least the 8 sleep does. And so I had been mouth taping and didn't last night. And it 10x'd the amount I snored. I went from snoring basically not at all.
Wait a minute. You're taping your mouth shut?
Oh yeah, that's a big thing. I do all the things. I have a mask.
I'm sure you do. I can't wait to get with you off this and see all the things.
I do lots of things. Lots of accoutrement. Yeah. Do you have an eye mask or? No,
I don't snore, but my husband snores, and I'm just going to say that white noise has changed our relationship. But I've never. I would love to see him. Did you snore before you did the mouth taping?
Yeah, and I mean, literally that one night I took it off, and the sleep told me that 20% of last night I was snoring. So it went basically from 0. So it keeps me from snoring. Is it uncomfortable? No, it's for some reason, I don't know, I start breaking out at times. Like sometimes I'll not do it, but then other times I'll tape and it starts breaking out. So that's why I stop, because I think like I'm slobbery or something when I say that. I thought I'd give my mouth a break, but then it hits you on the other side.
Okay.
Do you do earplugs because of the snoring?
No, I don't. I just put on white noise, and the minute that white noise comes on, I'm like, it's like the notifier that it's time to go to bed. So it saved me. Actually, when we were on that retreat and we were all sharing a cabin, there were several people that were noisy, and I was just like, here you go, white noise.
So it's an app on your phone, or you bring a machine?
So I have an actual thing at home, but when I travel, I just put the app.
Yeah, I know that's at the retreat, for those who don't know. So it is taking these serious leaders, right? Like the CEO of Chick-fil-A was in my class. Dr. Martin Luther King's daughter was in my class, right? These people. And then it takes them to a children's camp in rural Georgia where you're all sharing cabins. You have to bring your own sheets and pillows and make your little twin bed that you're sleeping in, right? Like it's really putting. And one of the first things they ask when they get up there is like, okay, everybody be honest, who snores? And so the different people stand up and they're like, okay, because it's sponsored by Delta. Who wants some Delta earplugs now? There's cabin mates snore or not. But Leslie came prepared with her white noise.
With the white noise, yeah.
This has been fantastic, Leslie. Before we sign off, could you share what your top 5 must-haves for your own personal health routine would be?
So number 1 by far would be a cruciferous smoothie, which I told y'all about. That's a daily thing for me.
Is that something Arden's Garden sells, or is it like you custom make your own?
Both. Well,
Okay.
We sell it, but apparently nobody's buying it but me. So it's not one of our biggest sellers. It's called the Kalinator. I do make it myself also because I make it in large batches. Something else. So every day I take a women's multivitamin from Dr. Furman's multivitamin. I also take he makes an immune one with mushrooms that I take on a daily basis. I also do it's omega-3 that is plant-based hot yoga. I think it is, as a lifelong athlete and especially as a gymnast earlier, I had a lot of flexibility and then I lost it. And so now, and I feel it, the older you get, that's where I really feel the injuries coming in is through flexibility. So the hot yoga has made a huge difference, not only in the way I feel in my body, but just that quiet time at the end. The Shavasana to slow down before the day gets started. I really appreciate that.
Now, realizing not everyone is the product of a world-class soccer player and a fitness studio / nutrition food maven, where if someone was just getting started, if somebody's listening to this, like, well, that's all well and good for her. She's been doing it her whole life. What is the one thing that you would recommend someone just kickstart their own health journey with?
100% cruciferous smoothie, without a doubt. I did not drink cruciferous smoothies until about a few years ago because I started learning more and more about the benefits of cruciferous vegetables. And our bodies are incredible machines. If we give it ultimate fuel, they heal themselves. And so, in this format, you're able to put a ton. It's very hard to eat a pound or half a pound of cruciferous vegetables. It's hard. So especially raw, and raw, you're getting even more nutrients. So that's why I like to throw them in the smoothie. It's just very easy to drink them and I'm good to go. So that would be my number 1 recommendation.
All right. So I have to ask, because it's come up a few times, what are the ingredients?
Okay. Well, it's any cruciferous vegetable. So my 2 favorites are kale and cabbage. And I do red cabbage, white cabbage, Napa cabbage. It doesn't matter. And then I put in berries, because they're the best antioxidant mix. So blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. But honestly, I put whatever fruit is going bad that I throw in the freezer. It doesn't really matter. It's just there to make it taste better. It's a water-based smoothie. I don't want any extra sugar. And I put in ground flax seeds for the omega-3s. So I do at least 48 ounces of it. Like these are reused bottles that I pack it in. I already drank it and just filled it with water. But I brought them to the retreat.
On the frozen berries, because living in Bermuda, right, by the time we get the berries in the first place, like they've been gone for a while. And so by the time you get them home, there's always some mold in my raspberries, my blackberry. Is that a thing you say, hey, just as soon as you buy it, just pop it in the freezer?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Totally. And I would just, if there's already mold in it, just move the mold away. It's really not going to hurt you. But it doesn't have to be berries. I mean, every fruit has different antioxidants, phytonutrients, phytochemicals that are going to help you. Just berries happen to have the most and the lowest sugar. So, but I mean, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. There's so much benefit there.
I mean, I was just asking for economic reasons more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
I'm buying the berries. I'm just losing a lot of them on the way.
Oh, yeah. I would totally throw them in the freezer. Absolutely.
I know you were talking about low sugar, and we've talked about a lot of healthy things, but do you have any guilty pleasures or something that would be like your indulgent snack that you would choose?
Girl, I have a huge sugar problem. Like I am a sugar addict. So I have to be very, very careful about that. Like for me, if I eat regular sugar, then that sugar wants some more sugar. So I make these healthy balls. They're so easy to make. 3 ingredients: oats, almond butter, and raisins. If you want to make them if you want to go some extra mile, you grind up the oats. You don't even have to. Just mix them up, roll them into balls, throw them in the fridge. They are delicious, and I'm not going to eat 28,000 of them.
You like sugar. So if you weren't doing the healthy balls and you're like, hey, I like sugar, I'm going to just let it go. Like, what would be the one thing that you're saying, hey?
Chocolate and nuts, hands down. There's nothing better. Chocolate and almonds.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. This has been a lot of fun. It was great seeing you last week. It's great to see you today.
I appreciate being here. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Home of Healthspan podcast. And remember, you can always find the products, practices, and routines mentioned by today's guests, as well as many other Healthspan role models on alively.com. Enjoy a lively day.